Fist flying, no bounds. Podcast kings, we pound for pound. UFC thrills, stills nights get loud. Big EQB, that's how we get down.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GRP. Back at it again on a Thursday. Not really. For you, it's Thursday. For me, it's Wednesday. I pre-recorded. So, just so you know, that's why you're not seeing this live. That's why there's no chat. And yeah, I'm just going to run through things and go over all of what happened last weekend in combat sports and the UFC pay-per-view. UFC 315 coming up this weekend, and I'll just be going through all of that, and I will not have a chat today because I am not live, but that is for a good reason. Hold on, that felt very bright. So that's for a good reason, and that's because it's my daughter Trinity's birthday today, on Thursday. So we will be currently at dinner having a good time, having some drinks and some good food. So celebrating Tren. And yeah, it's a good day to skip the live and just put out a video. So in case you're wondering why it's not live, that is why. But we're here getting it done anyway, and just a day early. So hopefully no big news is broken. You know, that's just a heads up in case anything did break or something changed. It is to be known that I did pre-record this, so I'm talking to you on a Wednesday night, even though you're watching on a Thursday. So hopefully everybody still watches the video and checks out the show, and don't forget to like and subscribe and do all that good stuff. Drop a comment down there if you have anything you want to say about any of the content I'm talking about. I'll respond since I'm not here live to respond in person. I'll respond to comments. So, leave some good comments if you have, agree or disagree or anything like that. Get the chat going down there, and just don't be a dick. Other than that, I appreciate everybody for, checking out the show and still joining in. So yeah, as far as everything else goes, it's been a weird week. Just like weird week because of setup and everything, doing things on a different day, all that good stuff. But yeah, no worries, no big deal. We're here, we're doing it, and yeah, just getting ready for this UFC pay-per-view weekend. Doing a watch party, so that will be live. So I will be live at least once this week, so everybody can come back on Saturday as well. We'll be live during the main event, or I'm sorry, the main card. I always do that, not the main event, the main card of UFC 315, Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. And then we also have Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot for a second title fight. So Bilal and Jack Della will be fighting for the welterweight championship, and Shevchenko versus Fiorot is for the women's flyweight championship. So we got two title fights on there. We got an old school legend fighting Jose Aldo. Right under that, another big fight with the women. Also in the flyweight division, Alexa Grasso versus Natalia Silva. Benoit Saint Denis fighting on this card as well. So, yeah, not too bad. It's not like, it's not like the best card in the world, but it's a pay-per-view. So, and we got two title fights. So let's hope for the best. And yeah, we'll be in here Saturday. So check it out. Don't forget, I'll be putting stuff out on social media as a reminder, and I'll talk to you about it again in a few minutes. Just reminders throughout, because I want to make sure everybody remembers that we'll be live, and you can chat it up with us on Saturday. I know Clark will be in here in studio with me. Josh might be here, might not. He hasn't made up his mind yet because that's what he does. He's a flip-flopper. But I love him. He's my friend. He's my boy. So I can't talk too much shit, but that's what he does. I was like, please give me an answer by today. He's like, I might be able to tell you tomorrow. I'm like, fine, whatever. So if he's here, he's here. And if he's not, he's not. Other than that, that's about it. Last weekend we had a bunch of boxing going on, and I was kind of excited for it because I was just like, boxing's kind of getting my attention right now, and we'll find out why that was kind of a fluke because the so much boxing happened, and a lot of it kind of sucked. So we'll get into that right off the top here. But of course, other than that, a little bit of other combat sports news, just some MMA stuff, and then we'll jump into the recap of UFC Des Moines, which happened last weekend. Sanhagen versus Davison Figueiredo. That card was pretty decent. Some good fights on that card. And then we'll jump into the preview of UFC 315. So let's just jump right into it. I got to take a sip real quick. Actually, I got two things I got to do before we jump into it. And that's take a sip first. A much needed drink. And secondly, we got to give a shout out to my sponsor, Noctane Smelling Salts. Always got to shout out the sponsor. And because it's a product I use all the time, I love it. It's good. I talk about it all the time, but I always remind people it's a good way to get alert and get a good quick adrenaline rush. If you're feeling tired, if you're feeling sluggish, you want to take a big whiff of this and you'll feel pretty nice afterwards. It's harsh at first. This is the most potent bottle with the red cap. There's a black cap that's medium potency and a white cap that is a lower potency. But if you're just jumping in and you want to try it, get that white cap. You want to be a little more bold and check out a little harsher one, get the black. And if you want to be like me, get the red. But take caution because it's rough. But it only lasts for a second being that rough. And then you enjoy the after effects. And that's just being awake, being alert, and feeling good. So I'm going to take a big whiff right now because I need it today too. I haven't taken a whiff of this at all today. So now's a good time to be awake for this podcast. Here we go. Oh, and it's harsh at first. Ooh, I didn't get my eye that time, so maybe my eyes won't water. But, you got to be careful. Keep your eyes closed. Don't get it too close to your nose. But you want to make sure you shake it up and get that little reaction going in the bottle. And take a big whiff, and then you'll feel nice, like I do right now. Hit that QR code right there. And there's a description in the... there's a link in the description as well. Go check out their website. It's appealing to the eyes. It's informative. You learn about the product and what it does and how it works. And you get to learn about the different tiers of potency and all that good stuff. And it's just a cool website to look at. So go check it out. Thanks to Noctane Smelling Salts for the continued sponsorship. I appreciate it. All right. So let's jump into combat sports news and get this rolling. Starting with the boxing I was speaking of earlier. Fatal Fury in Times Square. First ever event to happen in the middle of Times Square as far as boxing goes, professional boxing. I heard there's some other lower level events of some sorts that might have happened in the middle of Times Square before, but this is the first big major event that happened. And all of the, how can I say this? Just people coming in a big way. We heard about, everyone coming in taxis, just, New York vibe type shit. And that happened in some cases, but in other cases, like, I think it was Garcia that came in the Batmobile. I think Teofimo Lopez came in some kind of crazy, like, apocalyptic truck. I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. I just saw glimpses of these things because it wasn't really the main. It turned into what could have possibly been the main feature of everything that happened in that event, but there was some weird shit going on. The vibe seemed off a little bit. I guess if you were there, it was good. I guess if you were there, you felt good vibes because there was a sort of a VIP presence. I guess they built up some kind of temporary type wall shit, and or fence stuff, I don't know, to where you know, just outside people walking around Times Square couldn't just congregate around and watch, I guess, which was different than what I had heard. So there was a VIP type feel to it. There was a lot of celebrities there, stuff like that. A lot of WWE people, and I don't know. It was a little bit of a weird thing, but in the end, I mean, it was kind of an underwhelming event. I was waiting for this to be kind of a big one. I'm thinking everyone's gonna show up and show out, being the first event in Times Square, having a ring in the middle of this big extravagant place. You know, it really is just I mean, I've never been there, okay, so I can't talk a lot of shit, but what I've heard is it's basically just a New York street with a lot of massive billboards that are digital, and it's a lot of screens. So it's still an attraction. Obviously, I would love to go there and check it out and walk in that area myself, just to experience it. But, and you know, for this event to be there, it was a big thing, but it just didn't come through. You know, there's a lot of, obviously there's always conspiracy theories and shit like that, but there's people talking about how the fighters, as they walked out, had a weird kind of deer in the headlights look, maybe because there was rumors of stuff going on around that possibilities of things happening or something of that nature, because, but this all could just be rumor bullshit, and I'm just saying it because I heard it, and I saw the you know, you can make video evidence of almost anything at this point, and I don't mean that it was all fake. I mean, you can have a take on the way something looks. So even Garcia, as he walked out, was kind of looking around, had a weird look on his face. But you know, these fighters are being overwhelmed with the emotions and the physical adrenaline, and hoping not to have that dump before they even get into the ring. And they're trying to hype themselves up, and it's a different situation. You know, they're not coming straight from the back where they had a dressing room. They're not coming from anything like that. They're making this crazy entrance through what's not normal, and outside in an environment that's just insane. So of course they're gonna look a little different, right? They're gonna be a little aware of their surroundings, a little different type of feel. So maybe that's what that all was. It's all weird, and like I said, I don't believe any of the shit that's out there. I'm just saying that's the type of shit that people were talking about, and it did seem a little weird and a little off, but in the end, the event went off just fine. Everything surrounding the actual fights went fine. It seemed like a good event as far as that went, but the problem was it didn't. The fights weren't great. The fights weren't great all the way through. I mean, we're talking everything went to decision. There was 4 fights on this card, and every single one of them went to a unanimous decision. So not even a close fight where you were kind of wondering what was what. It was just underwhelming. So starting off, I mean, the first fight was Reto Tsutsumi versus Lavelle Whittington. I didn't hear one word about this fight, not even one. This was basically a fight that was headlined by 3 guys that everyone knows, that were fighting opponents that were decent names themselves. So we had Teofimo Lopez that was fighting for the Ring Magazine and WBO World Super Lightweight title versus Arnold Barboza Jr. And Teofimo Lopez came out with the win. That seemed to have been probably the best fight out of all of the ones on this card, from what I understand and what I've seen. And it looks like it was fighting for well, I'm not even sure. This doesn't even make sense. But like I said, Teofimo Lopez comes out with the win, defends his belt, and he had what was probably the best fight of the night. Here's a couple shots from that, but still a bit underwhelming considering the event, where we were at, what was happening, and what we were thinking we were going to see with these guys coming out in such a massive event, right? Then we get to Devin Haney. Devin Haney was fighting Jose Ramirez, and this was also a unanimous decision win for Devin Haney. This was the co-main event, and it was the most underwhelming fight of all. Devin Haney talks a ton of shit, talked a lot of shit to Ryan Garcia after he lost in the main event, and you know, he was kind of waiting to get the rematch with Ryan Garcia after he initially lost to Garcia, and then Garcia popped for PEDs and they overturned that. So, you know, when it comes down to it, that should have been the fight that happened. I don't know why they made this fight, because they should have just done the rematch. So they put this fight in the mix of things, hoping that both these guys would come out with big wins. Well, Devin Haney just came out and pretty much played it safe, threw very little punches, and just didn't look great. I mean, even the shots you see in these pictures, these are the two pictures I saw circulating everywhere. And I feel like that's because that was really the only thing you could really take from it, which is odd considering the event. So then we get to the main event. Main event being Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. And, you know, everyone's thinking, okay, Haney got the win. May not have been pretty, may not have been the best fight in the world, but he got the win. Now we can make this Ryan Garcia rematch, and it'll be huge because everyone's picking Garcia to win. He was the favorite in this fight against Rolly. But that didn't happen. As you can see, Ryan Garcia got knocked down in the second round, I believe. But after that, nothing really happened. It was underwhelming still. Ryan didn't come out with a fury trying to make up for that knockdown, and Rolly didn't jump on him and take advantage of the fact that he had already knocked him down. He just continued to kind of go through the motions, it seemed like. And the reason why I say this is because if you look at the stats that were rolling around, if you remember, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn was the weekend before this. So the stats were only 233 punches were landed in Saturday night's co-main and main event combined, coming from two of the biggest names on this card, Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. Talk a lot of shit, have the history, and should have been the fight that was made for this event. And instead they're fighting two other people, and they have underwhelming performances, especially Ryan Garcia, who loses. Doesn't look good for him either, because he comes off of being, being accused of taking PEDs, dropping dirty, and then he says, hey, that was a mistake, blah, blah, blah. And then he comes out saying that he doesn't need him. He still beat Devin Haney, he still beat his ass or whatever. But then he comes out with this performance that was lackluster. He gets dropped, and it's completely underwhelming, and he loses. So that does not look good for him. It's not a good look, and it's not a good look at all for these guys, because Eubank Jr. and Ben landed a total of 237 punches in the last 3 rounds alone. 4 punches more in 3 rounds of their fight they landed than the entire combined 24 rounds of the 2 boxing matches that happened in the main and co-main event of the Times Square fight. So it's like, come on, man. This is what turns me off from boxing. I know MMA has its downfalls as well, and I'm not going to turn right around and start talking shit, but the proof is right here. The proof is right here. 233 punches in 2 fights that went all 12 rounds, when Eubank Jr. and Ben landed 237 punches in the last 3 rounds alone of their fight. Not to mention the work they put in the 9 other rounds of that fight. So yeah, that fight went to decision, and you look at that and you're like, damn, that one went to decision too. But if you watch that fight, just watch the highlights of that fight, you see the punches and bunches that were being thrown, the combinations that were being thrown, the damage that was being put on both these fighters back and forth, the total domination of a fight compared to all of the fights on this other card. So, this could have been 2 weeks in a row of fucking amazing fights after the Eubank and Ben fight, and then to have, say, even just the co-main and main event were fantastic in this Times Square event, it would have been like, holy shit, boxing is on fucking fire for real, and it can't be touched right now, and it would have just been epic. But instead, you had this underwhelming bullshit in this fight. So then you move on, right? You're like, okay, well, guess what? Tomorrow night, tomorrow night we get Canelo, and Canelo's gonna fight. Technically, it was in the morning because they were fighting in Saudi Arabia, but you get this other fight, Canelo versus Scull. And where am I at? Oh, I lost my spot. So then you get Canelo versus Scull the next day in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. And this is the first time Canelo had been over there to fight. So he's fighting a somewhat underwhelming opponent, right? Scull. No one really is like, holy shit. And we're waiting for this Bud Crawford fight, because this is what boxing does. They set up these fights in advance and they announce them. So everyone's waiting for these fights, and then next thing you know, they have a fight set up before this big fight that's gonna happen. So we're like, well, what's happening here? Why are we doing this? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then what if they lose, right? Well, we see Garcia and Haney were supposed to have a rematch. Everyone's waiting for that. Highly anticipated. And then they get a fight before that against other opponents, and Ryan Garcia loses. So is that rematch going to happen still? Does Haney want to take a fight with somebody who just came off a loss? I don't know. I mean, even just to get his get back on him, I don't know. And it doesn't make sense. Now he has the built-in excuse of, oh, well, you lost, and you ain't shit without those PEDs. You proved it. And that's going to be the narrative. So now you have Canelo fighting Scull, not a gigantic fight. It's a Canelo fight, so that's what makes it big. But his opponent, not a big opponent for him. Not what everybody expects, not what everybody thinks should happen right now. Everyone's waiting for this Terrence Bud Crawford fight. So once again, we get yet another underwhelming performance from Canelo. Mainly, I'm sure, because he's like, hey, I just need a win. So let me just get in there, get in and get out, and get the win, and move on to the next fight that's set up for me. The big fight, the big money fight. But, does that turn people off from wanting to watch the next one? Well, Canelo's the face of boxing, so probably not. But I mean, I don't know. To me, he didn't even look that great in this fight. Physique wise, performance wise. I mean, Badou Jack fought on this card as well. He got a majority decision win over Noel McCallan. Jaime Munguia got a unanimous decision win in his fight against Bruno Surace. And then the only other fight was Martin Bakole, who, is a fun fight to watch usually, against F.A. Ajagba. I'm not sure how to say his name, but that was a majority draw out of the heavyweights. So, I mean, I just bumped everything, but that's just the frustration out of this, man. You had Bakole, who's a fun fighter to watch. He lost his last fight because he took a short notice fight. Big heavyweight, you'd think you get some fireworks out of that one. Negative. Jaime Munguia, decent name, unanimous decision. Didn't hear shit about that fight. Didn't hear shit about the WBC World Cruiserweight title fight between Badou Jack and Noel McCallan. Badou Jack gets the win. And then you get Canelo versus William Scull. And that's a unanimous decision win for Canelo. And that's it. Yeah, there's a belt at the end, blah, blah, blah. But it's just underwhelming, man. You get these two Riyadh season sponsored fights, and they're just a bust for the most part. So I don't know. This is what turns me off about boxing. I'm trying to watch portions of these fights as I can, and I'm seeing updates. I'm seeing this. I'm seeing that, and not even the social media posts from anybody outside of the people who put the event on were saying anything crazy about it. It was just kind of there. and it's like, oh well, it's over. So and so won, and that's it. And so the biggest talk about all of it was the fact that that it was underwhelming and it wasn't a great event. But in the end, Canelo still gets his way, and we got a bit of a surprise announcement. I guess a lot of people saw it coming, but it's confirmed and official by Turki Al-Sheikh. He said, "We will deliver the fight of the century, Riyadh season, on September 12th at Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium. The legend Canelo defends his Ring Magazine title versus the great Terence Crawford. TV platform will be announced soon with big surprise. My brother Dana White will promote his first TKO boxing event with me. It will be something crazy." So is this going to be another overhyped one because TKO boxing will be promoting with Dana White at the forefront? He says with me, man, my shoulder is like driving me nuts. It's just uncomfortable feeling right now. That's why I keep moving my arm, because it just nothing's working. I'm not feeling comfortable, but maybe I need a drink. I need another drink. So at least we get an announcement of the first TKO event to happen, and it's big names, Terence Bud Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. That's good. That's a good fight in theory, on paper. So let's see how it works out. We have to wait till September for that one. Big venue, Allegiant Stadium, and happening in Vegas. Of course, Riyadh season, Saudi Arabia, Turki Al-Sheikh, Dana White, big promotion. So I guess we'll wait and see. The only other thing happening in the boxing world was also on Sunday. We had, you know what? I just realized, did I say Saturday? I think I did. So the Garcia fight was Friday. Canelo was Saturday. Inoue was Sunday. So I think that got messed up somehow. Who cares? That's how it's just, I'm distracted by the amount of just non-excitement that it was. I knew something sounded off because Inoue fought on Sunday. So regardless, who cares? Inoue versus Cardenas happened on Sunday, and that pretty much saved the weekend for boxing because that was a fun fight. Everything I saw coming out of this fight was fun, and it ended in a TKO with Inoue. I can't even say Inoue. I always say Inoue because his first name's tough to say. Versus Ramon Cardenas. Inoue gets the win by TKO in the 8th round. He also got dropped for his first time in this fight. Let me get to. There we go. As you see here, Cardenas knocks him down, and pulls the monster out of the monster because Inoue came back with the fury on this one. Came back out, decided I'm not gonna get knocked down and lose this fight. I'm gonna get knocked down, turn it around, and get the win as I'm used to doing, and he did, and he gets the finish out of it too. And the monster came out of him big time with this one, because he's just started landing punch after punch, and it was accurate, was being strategic, and was landing with power, and he put the hurting on Cardenas. So in the end, at least we got this to, hold up boxing for the weekend, because it was just not great. And after talking it all up, like I was, I felt like it was going to be a lot of great events, and there's no way we were going to get a bunch of duds, and we almost did. But Naoya Inoue saved it all for the weekend with an exciting fight against Ramon Cardenas, and that was a TKO there. We had a TKO in the co-main with Rafael Espinoza versus Edward Vasquez. Espinoza gets the win there in the world featherweight title for the WBO. And then we only had 2 decision wins out of all of these fights. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we had 2 decision wins, being the first one to start the card off. And then we had finishes 3 in a row there. Then we had a decision between Rohan Polanco versus Fabian Maidana, and that was Polanco getting the win in that one. And then the co-main and the main were both finishes. So at least that card had a lot of finishes, and that's good. That's good for boxing. That was a better card overall. You may not know everybody on that card, or you do if you're a hardcore boxing fan. I'm not, and I don't follow boxing that deeply, so I didn't know a lot of the guys on this card. But Inoue, I was definitely excited to see what he was going to do, and he pulled through and showed his skills and was able to get the win by finish in an exciting fashion as well. So good on him, even after getting knocked down. Instead of turning it around, instead of not turning it around and just kind of floating through like Garcia did, he came out and decided to turn everything around and get the win in a big way. So that was good for boxing. That was a good event, and that does it for boxing for the weekend. We'll see. We'll see what comes up next for boxing. You know, this is the kind of stuff that takes me out. You know, when it comes to MMA, I know it could be fight to fight, or it could be event to event. You never know. And we've had a lot of not so great events in MMA. The UFC's been lacking a little bit in finishes and stuff like that. But I guess because I'm such a fan of that, I stick with it, and it is what it is. There's so many events and so many fights that there's always going to be the next big thing coming up, and you don't have a lot of time to dwell on how bad an event was. So we'll see how boxing bounces back with this one and what's next for them in the boxing world. Going into the MMA world a little bit, we had some somewhat sad news, tragic news. There was an incident involving Francis Ngannou in Cameroon, where he's from. It says Ngannou has reportedly been in a motorcycle accident that led to the death of a young girl in Cameroon. So apparently, you know, I guess he hit a young girl on a motor. He was riding a motorcycle and he hit a young girl, and she was badly injured and wound up passing away due to those injuries. And this is just sad, and this is sad no matter what. Okay, no matter what else is happening with anybody else involved in this. But the other thing is Francis Ngannou has been through a lot over the past couple years, between all of the contract disputes and where he's gonna fight, the stuff with the UFC, everything in his personal life, losing his son after getting knocked out by Anthony Joshua. You know, the ups and downs have been rough for Francis Ngannou, because the ups haven't been that up and the downs have been real down. Big just emotional events for him, and I actually feel really bad for him, and obviously I feel even worse for the young lady that lost her life, you know, in an accident. There hasn't been a lot of details about what actually happened, but apparently she was just badly injured and you know, couldn't pull through. So Francis Ngannou released a statement saying, "From the very beginning, I have been by the family's side, offering support, comfort, and deepest condolences during this time. I've met with them privately to share in their grief, and I will continue to stand by them." I believe that was missing. Oops. I carry their pain with me, and my unwavering thoughts and support remain with them as they face this heartbreaking loss. So from what I understand, he was the one that actually picked the young girl off the ground and took her to the hospital, and he was there from the second that obviously the doctors took over, and he was there until the end and was with the family. It sounds like it was a complete accident. There was no foul play or anything like that. But you know, for him to have to deal with this after losing a child of his own as well is just horrific, man. Especially for it to be such an accident and then someone to actually pass away. I'm sure he'd feel bad even if they just were badly injured but survived. He doesn't seem like the type of guy to do anything other than what he did. So just condolences for that family that lost their loved one. I feel really bad for Francis Ngannou as well, considering everything he's been through. And man, it's just a sad and tough situation, and it sucks. It sucks to hear something like this happen. And for a while I was kind of unsure because there wasn't a lot of details, not a lot of people were talking about it. But when he came out with the statement of his own, I was kind of wondering if it was a fluke, like maybe somebody was putting out a false story or had some details mixed up. But it's true, and it is what happened. And he came out with a statement, so I was, I just wanted to cover it for a minute in case anyone had heard about it. Just to get a little bit of detail out there about that, and to wish everyone well, of course. So, as I said earlier, we got the Watch Party podcast happening this Saturday, going live as soon as the main card starts. So the main card will start here in Arizona at 7:00 p.m. So be ready. So the normal time I'm going live on this channel, we will be going live for the Watch Party podcast on Saturday, May 10th. For UFC 315, 2 title fights on the line, a women's title fight, and then the men, Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena, and Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot. We'll dive deeper into that event here in a little bit after we do the recap of last weekend's fight night. But as I said before, Clark will be in studio with me, and possibly Josh as well. So join us, come talk some shit and have some fun, have some drinks. We'll be having drinks and having a good time while we watch the fights, live reactions, fight talk, everything else, craziness, stupidity, goofiness. It's fun. We have a good time. We'll laugh a lot. We'll talk some shit, and we'll definitely talk about the fights, obviously, and go through and react live to every single fight on the main card. We got 2 title fights that are going 5 rounds, and then we got three other fights on the card, so 5 fights in total. So come back Saturday, 7 p.m., same channel. When the main card goes live, we go live. Come back and check it out for UFC 315 on Saturday. Don't miss it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when we go live anytime, but especially on Saturday. Let's move on to UFC Des Moines. It happened last Saturday. Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo. Figueiredo being a former champion in a weight division under where he fought for this one. So he's fighting in the bantamweight division. He was a former champion multiple times in the flyweight division. So he moves up, and he's getting a little bit older, and he's moving up and fighting big names. And unfortunately for him in this one, which we'll dive deeper into it when we get to that fight, I want to go over all the other ones first. But Figueiredo did lose to Corey Sandhagen in the main event that happened last Saturday. It was a fun fight, though. There was a chunk of decisions in the middle, but the fight started with a couple decisions, went to a few finishes, a few more decisions, and then ended the night with 3 finishes in a row, which made the end of the night fun. And you can't always judge it just because it went to decision, but that's just what I'm saying for recently, because that's kind of how the UFC has been going. If it's been decisions, it hasn't been the best. So let's start from the bottom and go over a little bit of what happened in the prelims. Overall, I feel like it was a pretty good night of fights, to be honest. But let's get started with the women's division here. We had Juliana Miller versus Ivana Petrovic. Juliana Miller was on a losing streak, hadn't fought in about a year and a half. She was on a 2-fight losing streak, so looking to get back in that win column against Petrovic. And Petrovic was actually on a win streak, I think. Let's see. Oh no, she was coming off a loss as well, but only one. So this marks her second loss in a row. While Juliana Miller gets her first win after a couple losses, hadn't fought in a while, comes back and gets the win. Pretty decent fight. I mean, it wasn't anything too exciting or too crazy, but Miller is just an awkward fighter. As you can see by the facial expressions too, she always looks like she's putting her all into everything and that it hurts to do whatever she's doing, but that's just the way she looks. She hadn't fought in a while, so coming back in and getting in there, she looked pretty decent, and you know, got the win by unanimous decision. The next fight was a pretty decent one as well. Dontel Mays versus Thomas Peterson. This one went to decision as well, with Peterson getting the win. But yeah, as you can see, he got to manhandle Dontel Mays a little bit, got him on the ground, a little bit of ground and pound. Even put him in this submission, trying to get him to tap, but was not successful with that. Winds up just getting the unanimous decision win on this one, but a decent fight overall. Next up, we had Quang Lee versus Gaston Bolanos, and this one ended in the second round by submission, with Quang Lee getting the win. He looked pretty good in this one. Bolanos, I mean, put up a decent fight, but Quang Lee looked like he was out to win from the get-go, and winds up wrapping up and getting Bolanos in the rear naked choke, as you can see in that picture on the bottom there, and gets the win by submission in the second round. Then we get to a really fun fight, which was Jillian Robertson versus Marina Rodriguez. And Robertson, I think I said this last week, she's a beast. When she gets going, there's no stopping her, so you can't let her get a rhythm, because then she gets you down to the ground, and she puts the work in on you on the ground, and that's exactly what she did to Marina Rodriguez, and gets the win in the second round as well by TKO, as you can see on that lower picture. She, you know, full mount on the back, and was able to get some ground and pound to finish that fight. And after that, I mean, everyone's now talking how close, you know, Robertson is to, you know, possibly getting a fight for the title with that performance. I mean, she's been doing pretty well. That is her fourth win in a row, and she's beaten some pretty decent names: Polyana Viana, Michelle Watterson, Luana Pinheiro, and now Marina Rodriguez. So that was a good fight for her. And for Marina, she decided to hang up the gloves, puts him down on the mat, and retires for this fight. She just said she's just not feeling it anymore. And yeah, she just retired right then and there after this loss. And, you know, it just seems like there's a lot of fighters that are losing. I mean, losing. There's always someone losing. But there's a lot of fighters that have been retiring lately in the UFC. It's just kind of weird. It seems like there's just a wave of people just retiring this year. So I guess we'll see if that keeps up moving on into the middle of the year with some of the bigger cards coming up. You know, we do have a lot of older fighters fighting, a lot of, and then we get these surprise ones where I didn't even hear anything about her thinking about retiring or anything like that, but she did. So good luck to her on whatever she does. You know, not a bad fighter. She, you know, had a 17-6 record overall. She was 7-6 in the UFC. This marked her third loss in a row. Maybe that's what contributed to her deciding to retire, because it is her third loss in a row. And I say it all the time, when you lose 3 in a row in the UFC, it might be time to think about what's happening next, because a lot of times you get cut after that. So she decided to retire. So good luck to her on her future ventures and whatever she decides to do after fighting. Let's move on to the next one. For performance of the night bonus for Azamat Bakoev, as he gets the win over Ryan Loder in the first round. TKO win for him. Catches him with a right hook, as you see here, and then gets on top of him on the ground and ends it there. Bakoev gets the performance of the night bonus and the win over Ryan Loder in the middleweight division. So that was a fun fight while it lasted, 2 minutes and 44 seconds into the first round. And then for the final prelim fight, we had Yana Santos versus Miesha Tate. So Miesha Tate coming back after being out for a little while. I don't know what to say about Miesha Tate on this one, because I kind of feel like she sounded like she was doing great. She sounded like she was in a good position coming into this fight. She was very confident and seemed a little different than I'd seen her before. Looking like she was ready to get back in there, get some wins, and make one more run. Because she's already retired once and came back after a few years, and now she's looking to try to get in there, get another run going with her name, to her advantage and her history. But she just seemed very hesitant. Her striking was awkward, and it just seemed like she wasn't following through with everything. Striking, grappling, everything. Yana Santos didn't do fantastic. As you can see, she landed some good strikes on Miesha, but it wasn't a crazy fight. It was just one of those, she got the win. It almost looked more like Miesha looked bad more than it did that, Yana looked good. That was my feeling on that. That was my take on the fight. So I could be wrong, but it just didn't feel like Miesha was in it completely, which is sad, because I was kind of excited for her to come back and see if she was gonna, what she was gonna do with like the second chapter. But it wasn't much from this fight. So we'll see what she decides to do moving forward. Again, it sounds like she's in a good place in her life and everything's kind of falling in place, and then she gets this loss. So I don't know. I don't think there was any talks of her retiring again just yet. Maybe she'll try another one and see if she gets a win and go from there. But yeah, she got the loss this time to Yana Santos by unanimous decision. Moving on from there, a good representation of a unanimous decision win for Mason Jones. And, you look at it and you're thinking, damn, another decision. But this was against Jeremy Stephens, and it was a pretty fun fight. You could see the damage on Mason's face. Jeremy Stephens hits hard, and I think Mason Jones found that out. But he did a good job of, staying away from the big power shots for the most part. And he was the favorite. So with Jeremy Stephens being a big underdog and fighting in his hometown and stuff like that on this one fight contract for the UFC, he comes in and he puts up a pretty good fight, but Mason Jones was just better and showed why he was the favorite, and got some good strikes in on Jeremy Stephens and comes out of it with a unanimous decision win after a fun fight. So we'll see what happens with Jeremy Stephens after this, because like I said, it was a one fight contract for him. I think they just brought him back because they were in Des Moines, and it was a good name to have on that card because he's a fan favorite there. And with everything he's done in the BKFC, I hope this doesn't reflect negatively on him for this, because as we saw with Mike Perry, Mike Perry's on a tear, winning the King of Violence belt in BKFC, and then he jumps out and goes and fights Jake Paul and loses, and we just kind of haven't seen anything from him since then for the BKFC. He started his own organization with the Dirty Boxing thing. Maybe that's taking up a lot of his time, but we also saw that Conor McGregor said he was fired and all this other shit. But yeah, just nothing's been lined up for him. So we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully the same thing doesn't happen with Jeremy Stephens, where he's out for a while because he loses here in an organization outside of BKFC. Maybe that's where he just jumps back in and realizes that's where he belongs and gets a few more big fights and good wins in the BKFC before he calls it quits. So at least this was a pretty fun fight, and he didn't go out on a bad note. He didn't get knocked out or nothing like that. Had a fun fight, and that was it. So congrats to Mason Jones on getting that win. Let's move on to another decision fight, but this one was fun as well because Siri City fought Cameron Smotherman and gets the unanimous decision win over Smotherman. It's hard to say that name without messing it up. Smotherman. But yeah, City looked good. He looked good in this fight, just landing great strikes and finding a place for everything to land. As you can see in these pictures, look at that big punch. That's a well-timed picture. I love it when we get pictures like that with the like face smash type look. I'm not sure why I like that. It's just a dope picture, I guess. But City looked good in his striking, and gets the unanimous decision win over Smotherman. And that moves us on to Montel Jackson versus Daniel Marcos. That's yeah, another decision win here for Montel Jackson, but he looked good as well in this fight against Daniel Marcos. A lot of people were talking about Marcos because he was undefeated, 17-0, and he dropped that undefeated record with this one. With Montel Jackson coming in, you know, we talked about how he only fights like once a year, but he gets a lot of wins early in all of his fights. He was on a 5-fight win streak, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5-fight win streak. And yeah, he looked really good against Damone Blackshear in his last fight. And he ended that 18 seconds into round 1. Before that was Hani Yahya, who he got the win over him in round 1 as well. So, you know, with that win streak, we're like, okay, with Daniel Marcos being undefeated, can he keep that undefeated record and beat Montel Jackson, who's a tough opponent and a tough person to fight when you're undefeated like that? Or is Montel Jackson going to stay on that win streak and keep doing what he's been doing? And he definitely did that. So good win and a big win for Montel Jackson in this one. Let's see if he fights again this year, because he just doesn't seem to fight more than once a year. Not sure why, but it'd be nice to see him get in there and get some more action, because yeah, he's a fun guy to watch fight. So next up we had D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. This was a damn fun fight to watch, because these guys went at it from the get-go. There was not a lot of downtime in this fight, and you would think we'd get a whole lot more pictures out of this one, but I kind of didn't find that many, because I think the knockout was the highlight. Of course, the knockout was the highlight, but I mean, as far as like visuals, everything else, these guys went at it. D-Rod was you know, just throwing lots of volume and landing. So, and Ponzinibbio just came at him and kept coming at him, regardless of how much he was getting hit. So when we were in the second round, at the end of the second round, D-Rod had him wobbled, and then the bell rang, and Ponzinibbio got to go to his corner and get a rest and gather himself. But when they came out in the third round, and D-Rod just caught him quickly and got him wobbled again. And then he finished it up. A minute and 12 seconds into the third round, he was able to land his big left hook and then finish him on the ground. And he sent Ponzinibbio flying with that left hook. And D-Rod was fucking hyped. I was hyped for him. Shit, it was cool to see him get that win. He was excited for it. He was coming off that split decision win over Alex Morono, who's a tough opponent, and that was a tough fight for him. But he did get the win. You know, before that, he was on a 3-fight losing streak, and he was kind of down and out, hoping to get the big win. And at least he got the win against Morono, but he put a stamp on it this time with this big knockout punch over Ponzinibbio. And that puts Ponzinibbio, well, that's a loss. I mean, his only one loss, because before that, he was coming off a win. So we'll see what's next for Ponzinibbio, and D-Rod is looking to get just keep moving up and get a big opponent for his next fight. And he just looks good right now. He looks comfortable. He looks like he's settling in and finding a rhythm. So let's see if he can keep that win streak alive and get another big win in his next fight. Next up is the co-main event, RDR versus Bo Nickel. We had one guy a couple fights before this. Like I said, Daniel Marcos, that was undefeated, 17-0, and gets defeated and suffers his first loss of his career. And now we have Bo Nickel, who is 7-0, so 10 less fights than Marcos, but he was undefeated coming into this fight, and a lot of people were picking him to kind of destroy De Ridder, even though RDR was a two division champion in one championship. So that's not something to just dismiss. He has a lot more fights, a lot more experience. He's great on the ground. He's a killer on the ground, actually. And I mean, he showed what he could do with his striking in this one as well. So, Bo Nickel in 3 years has basically gone from never having a fight to having 7 fights and in the UFC and being undefeated. But it was a little too much for him. De Ridder just put the striking on him, punished him, and fucking smothered him, and showed Bo Nickel that he wasn't able to hang this time. So he handed him his first loss of his career, and I think it might be a good thing for Bo, because he got to experience something that he hadn't really experienced, which is getting beat up a little bit. As you can see with these couple big punches here that RDR landed on him. And then the big story was the knees. Landed a knee to the chin right there in the top picture, and then a knee to the solar plexus in that bottom picture, which is what took out Bo Nickel. Nickel did not like getting hit. It reminded me of Brock Lesnar back in the day, when Brock got hit by Cain Velasquez and just did not like it and panicked and tried to be, get crazy, and he couldn't because Cain was too good. But yeah, anytime Brock would get hit, he just did not like it. He didn't have who likes getting hit, right? But that's not the thing. The thing is how you handle it, right? And Bo did not handle it well. And maybe that's because he just doesn't have the experience, But what is he doing in training? Why? Is he not getting any good sparring in, or has he never? Are they being too gentle with him? I don't want to down on Bo Nickel. I think he's a great fighter, and I think he's got a lot to learn still. But I think he has the right bases, or the right base to be a great fighter. And I feel like sometimes when you come in undefeated and you have all this hype around you, it's a big responsibility, and sometimes it's a detriment. And a lot of people are calling fraud check and all this other bullshit, but Bo Nickel is confident. He doesn't talk a ton of shit, but he talks confidently, and he says he's the best, and he'll say he'll beat this person, that person, but he doesn't have the kind of career yet behind him to have everyone think that that's definitely 100% true. He hadn't fought the big opponents yet. Most of the guys he had fought were pretty low level, and that's fine. Coming in the way he came in, and with the experience he had, I don't see a problem with the way he showed up and with what he did in the fight, or in the fights that he had, I guess I should say. So I'm not downing too much on Bo Nickel, but I am curious to see how he bounces back, and how he's going to handle the fact that he lost his undefeated record, which fucks with a lot of people's heads. Being undefeated, talking as confidently as he was, is this gonna be a win or learn situation, or is this gonna be I lost and dwell on that loss and not learn from it? I feel like Bo Nickel's smart enough to learn from it. So hopefully he doesn't have just a bunch of yes men around him that will make excuses for his loss, and instead take advantage of the fact that this is a time to learn from what happened. The pressure's off with the undefeated record. Fuck what everybody says, because everyone's gonna say you suck. You're a fraud checked, blah, 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 all that bullshit. But the thing is we down on boxing for having such a negative effect on a fighter for having one loss. So who cares about the undefeated record? Yeah, it's nice and all. It was great that Khabib was able to get through his whole career and be able to retire undefeated and on top. But not everybody can do that. Now, maybe Bo Nickel wanted to do that, but it's over now. So get past it and become the great fighter that everyone was thinking you were, that everyone still might think you are. I think he has the potential to be great. I think he was pretty damn good. But the way that he handled getting hit was not good. And I didn't like seeing that. And I could have easily turned around and been like, hey, this guy sucks. You know, he's a fraud, all this other bullshit. But I think that we'll have to wait and see how he bounces back. That's always my thing. How do they bounce back after being undefeated and finally getting their first loss, or never being finished and then getting finished? You know, those are the big things that happen in MMA, and that you have to think about and you have to pay attention to, and you have to wonder, how will they bounce back? And that's always what I'm looking for. So RDR did not look great in his first fight in the UFC. Everyone's talking shit about him because he's a 2-division champion and won championship, and then he comes over to the UFC and has been winning, but he hasn't lost a fight in the UFC yet. He's 3-0, but he didn't look the best when he fought Mearshart. But he got a win regardless, and a finish at that. He's finished all 3 of his fights. Against Kevin Holland, against Gerald Mearshart, and then now Bo Nickel. And everyone talked up and had hype behind Bo Nickel, so that's a name for you. Undefeated, favorite of the UFC, stuff like that. Kevin Holland, damn good fighter, good name there. GM3, Gerald Mearshart, great fighter, great on the ground especially, and he beats him by a submission. So De Ridder is coming out here ready to make a name for himself. So now he's 3-0 in the UFC, and he said, hey, you threw me your best wrestler, now give me your best striker. And then he proceeded to call out Sean Strickland. So that could be a fun fight. I'm just excited to see what he does next, because I feel like he is slowly progressing up and up and up. So maybe hopefully the pressure of being undefeated doesn't get to him. I feel like he has enough experience and he's smart enough in this game to take it in stride and move forward. So we'll see what he gets next, and I'm excited to see it. And I'm excited to see what Bo Nickel does. I have faith he'll bounce back. He doesn't seem like one of those guys that's mentally weak to let this crumble everything around him, but you never know. Everyone deals with things differently. So we'll see what happens with that. And with that said, let's get to the main event of UFC Des Moines. We got Corey Sandhagen versus Deiveson Figueiredo, and as you can see here, this was ended in the second round. It's a TKO win for Corey Sandhagen. De Ridder got the performance of the night bonus, by the way, for that performance over Bo Nickel. And then Corey Sandhagen gets a performance of the night bonus here with his win over Deiveson Figueiredo. And as you can see, like I said, Sandhagen putting the hurt on Figgy on the ground. He busted him up on the feet before this, and Figgy just looked out of sorts. Did not look like the Figgy we thought we would get with this one. But Corey's just a beast, and when he gets you in a position and finds his rhythm, he doesn't let up, and he was able to get Figgy to the ground and pretty much put him in some bad positions. Deiveson Figueiredo just kept going for a fucking leg lock, like an ankle lock, leg lock, everything. Every time he was on the ground, he's trying to go for it, and that's what wound up fucking him up, and that's what wound up costing him the fight, because he got wrapped up with Corey. Even though he had him in a couple bad positions here and there, he kept wrapping up that leg, and then Corey winds up getting what he say, the 50-50 position, which is meant to do what he did, which is injure the knee of Figueiredo, because Figgy couldn't get out of it, and he did the wrong things, and he got his knee popped. So according to Corey, that's what that position is supposed to do. If you do the wrong thing, you get injured, and that ends the fight. So they called it a knee injury TKO win for Corey Sandhagen, but you know, he purposely did what he did to do what happened, which is to injure that knee, because that's part of the game. And Figgy couldn't get out of it and didn't do the right thing, so he got injured. So that's what happened with the main event there. Corey gets the win, and Figgy, I think, is now pretty much not gonna make his way to another title run or anything like that. I think he's at the point where maybe we get some fun fights out of him with some good opponents, and then he calls it a day at some point soon. I think his heyday's kind of done, but I feel like he's got some good fights left in him, so it'd be fun to see some fun matchups coming from him in the future. And that does it for UFC Des Moines. Let's get to UFC 315 happening this Saturday. 2 title fights: Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena in the men's middleweight division, and Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot in the women's flyweight division. And this is happening in Canada. I think Quebec, maybe Montreal, Quebec. I don't know what. I don't know the regions or areas that well, but regardless, it's happening in Canada. So this isn't the best card in the world, but there is some fun fights on it, especially when we just had UFC 314 last month. That was a fun fucking card all the way through, with some great outcomes and just some great fights. A lot of finishes and a lot of exciting fights, but I'm not sure we're gonna get that out of this one. There's a lot of let's see. There's a lot of women's fights, so we know those mostly go to decision, so that makes it a little bit tough. Well, I guess there's only 3 women fights, but 2 of them are in the main card, so that could be tough. But and we don't have the biggest names ever on this card, but we do have some pretty fun fights. So let's get started here with the prelims. Take a look at the beginning of the prelims. Starting off the night, we got Brad Katona, 2-time Ultimate Fighter winner, versus Bezkat Almakhan, who's 0-1 in the UFC. Brad Katona is 4-4 in the UFC, 14-4 overall for him, and 11-2 for Almakhan. I think I'm saying that right. That's in the men's bantamweight division. Then we got Daniel Santos versus Zhang Yang Li. Li is 11-2 overall, 2-1 in the UFC. Daniel Santos is 2-1 in the UFC as well, 11-2 overall. That's happening in the men's featherweight division. Next up is Marc-Andre Barriault versus Bruno Silva in the men's middleweight division. Barriault is 16-9 overall, 5-8 in the UFC, and Silva is 4-6 in the UFC, 23-12 overall. That should be a fun fight, I think. These first few fights actually have a lot of potential. Katona, though, sometimes he gets stuck in this weird position, so it depends on his opponent. But Katona doesn't have like the wow factor when it comes to his fights. A lot of times they're just hard-fought decision wins. But we'll see what Bezkat has for him. Santos is a fun fighter versus Lee. I've seen Lee get rocked and then come back and get some, get a big win, so that could be fun. And Marc-Andre Barriault is always a fun fighter to watch, so there's those. Next up, we have Navajo Sterling versus Ivan Erslan, or I think it's Ivan Erslan, in the light heavyweight division. Sterling undefeated, 6-0. He's only got one fight in the UFC, in that he's got a win there. Erslan is 0-1, 14-4 overall. Tough fight there for Erslan, I think. Navajo Sterling, a lot of people have talked him up pretty good. So being undefeated, he's probably the favorite. We'll see what happens in that fight. And then the last 3 fights on the prelims, Modestas Bukauskas versus Ian Cutelaba. That has potential to be pretty damn good. Light heavyweight division there as well. Bukauskas is 5-4 in the UFC, 17-6 overall. Cutelaba 19-10 overall, 8-9 in the UFC. But Cutelaba puts up some good fights a lot of times, depending on his opponent. So that could be a good one there. And then we got former flyweight champion Jessica Andrade. Getting a big fight against Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's been on a roll lately. She is 7-2 in the UFC, 13-3 overall. Andrade is 17-11 in the UFC, 26-13 overall. That's a lot of fucking fights there. But Andrade, you know, she's been a champ before. Jasudavicius is, you know, on the come up, so this should be a good fight. Kind of a wrestler, grappler versus striker, because Andrade has heavy hands, and if she gets in a rhythm and she gets going and is able to land on you, that's a tough night, because she's got some she punches hard, basically. And then in the prelims, the last fight in the prelims, Mike Malott versus Charles Radke, Chuck Buffalo. That's in the men's welterweight division. Mike Malott is 4-1 in the UFC, 11-2 overall, and Chuck Buffalo is 3-1 in the UFC, 10-4 overall. That should be a good fight to lead us into the main card. That I feel like that fight could have been on the main card, really. But yeah, I'm excited for that one. So we'll see how that goes. And let's get to the main card. Starting off with Benoit Saint Denis versus Kyle Prepolek. I think that's how you say that. Prepolek. Not sure. But yeah, we'll see if I'm right on that one. This is happening in the men's lightweight division. We got 13-3 overall for BSD, 5-3 in the UFC. That submission column is the notable one. 9-0 there in submissions, 0-1 by decision, 4-2 by KO TKO. He is on a 2-fight losing streak, but so is Prepolek. He's 18-8 overall, 0-2 in the UFC, but his significant category there is that KO TKO column with 10 wins there, never been stopped by KO or TKO. He's 4-2 by submission, 4-6 by decision, and again on a 2-fight losing streak. So looking at these columns here for these guys with these stats, I mean, it looks like BSD is got the better record in submissions, never been submitted, 9 wins, and then Prepolek with the 10 wins by KO TKO and never been stopped. And that's the thing, BSD is coming off a couple losses that he got beat up real bad in, especially that actually I think both of them he got beat up pretty bad. No, he's not. Wait. Oh yeah. So he's on a 2-fight losing streak. And yeah, he got beat up bad in both of them. Dustin Poirier fucked him up. I couldn't believe it. I was happy as hell. But man, that was a crazy fight. It was a fun fight to watch, especially because I'm a Poirier fan. I mean, I like BSD, but Poirier is one of those guys that I've followed for a long time, and I've rooted for him for a long time. So that was a fun fight to watch, and he was kind of looked at as the underdog in that fight against BSD, because BSD was on a roll with a good win streak, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-fight win streak. And then Poirier comes in and fucking puts a hurting on him and TKOs him in the second round. And then he fights Renato Moicano and gets the shit kicked out of him there as well. That was ended by doctor stoppage after round 2 because of how injured his eye was, how fucked up his eye was. Renato Moicano just did work in that fight, and BSD is looking to come back and hopefully get in the win column for him. But he's coming up against an opponent who might be 0-2 in the UFC, but if, like I said, he's never been finished by a KO TKO, and he's got those 10 wins there. So not necessarily an easy fight for BSD coming into this one. He's been in the UFC before, but this is his first fight back. for Prepelic. He was last in the UFC in 2019, where he lost to Austin Hubbard and Nordine Taleb. So he had 2 losses in a row, and then he was out of the UFC. Well, those were his only 2 fights in the UFC, I should say. So yeah, we got this should be a fun fight to get started, because again, BSD's gotten beat up so bad in his past 2 fights. So if Prepelic can get that striking going, his last fight was won by punches in the first round, and then actually he's got 3 wins in a row outside of the UFC, and they were all striking finishes in the first round. So that is fucking interesting because of BSD and all the damage he's taken recently in his past 2 fights, and the fact that he just gets hurt and finished on the feet. So that's something you might want to watch out for if you're betting on this one, because of, you know, who knows where BSD's chin is, if he's had enough, you know, has he had enough recovery from those 2 beatings. You know, it can affect a guy mentally too. And so I don't just mean had enough time to recover physically, but mentally as well. So we'll see if he can get back in the win column here and spoil that return of Prepelic to the UFC. Next up is Alexa Grasso, former champion, versus Natalia Silva. Grasso's 16-4 overall, 8-4 in the UFC, 4-0 by KO TKO, 2-1 by sub, and what is that, 10-3? Am I seeing that right? Yeah, 10-3 by decision. She is coming off a loss. Natalia Silva's 18-5 overall, 5-0 in the UFC, 5-1 by KO TKO, 7-2 by sub, and 5-2 by decision. She's on a 6-fight win streak, so she's 6-0, I should say. Unless I messed that up. Yeah, she's 6-0 in the UFC, so I fucked that up. But yeah, undefeated in the UFC against fighting against a former champion. This should be interesting, especially because, I mean, a lot of Grasso's fights go to decision, but Silva has a good kind of mix up there in how her fights end. Let's take a look at Grasso coming off a loss to Valentina Shevchenko, where she lost the title. So she's coming off her title loss, and when before that she had a split decision win over Shevchenko to defend the belt, and then when she beat her by rear naked choke. So she was on a 3, 4, 5, 6 fight win streak before she got that loss to Shevchenko. So we'll see how she bounces back after losing the belt. That's always, you know, the thing I look for, because yeah, once they lose the belt, it gets a little rough, especially when you're fighting someone who's undefeated in the UFC. 6-fight win streak. She's got wins over another former champion, Jessica Andrade, wins over Viviane Araújo, Andrea Lee, Victoria Leonardo, and Teresa with that. Oh, and she's beat Jasmine Jasdavicius. So a lot of big names she's fought and beat, but her last 3 fights are wins by unanimous decision. So this has potential to go, you know, all 3 rounds and be a decision finish for one of these, or a decision win for one of these girls. That's what usually seems to happen with the women, unfortunately, but it has potential. So we'll see if Natalia Silva can keep her undefeated record in the UFC. And we'll see if Grasso can bounce back after losing to Shevchenko and losing her belt. Next up is a good fight. Jose Aldo versus Amin Zahabi. Aldo, former champion as well. Legend in the UFC. Already has a fight in the actually, I think he's just in the Hall of Fame after he retired for a bit. Came back and looked pretty decent in his comeback, I think. Or was that his only? Hold on, I gotta look. No, yeah, he's had other fights since he's come back, I think. I'm trying to remember what the fuck. Yeah, I think he's 1-1 since his comeback. But anyway, had some success in boxing as well. He beat Emmanuel Zambrano, Jeremy Stevens, and Esteban Espindola, all in boxing. Gamebred boxing being one of them. So did his little stint in boxing. Now he's back to the UFC. Coming off a loss to Mario Bautista, which he's pissed about. He feels like he won that fight, or he could have won that fight. But he's 32-9 overall, 14-8 in the UFC, 16-4 by KO TKO, 2-1 by sub, and 14-4 by decision. And then you got Ayman Zahabi, the I think he's older or younger brother of Faraz Zahabi, who was GSP's coach and coaches a bunch of other guys in the UFC. But Ayman is 12-2 overall, 6-2 in the UFC. I lost my spot here. 5-1 by KO TKO, 3-0 by sub, and 4-1 by decision. He's on a 5-fight win streak. After he came into the UFC and won his first fight, and then lost his next two, but then went on this 5-fight win streak. Only thing is he doesn't have the biggest names, so his strength of schedule isn't crazy. To then, be going up against Aldo, but then you got Aldo, who older, already retired once, coming back in the UFC, hasn't looked the same since he got knocked out by Conor McGregor. So, but Ayman has wins over Ricky Tercios, Draco Rodriguez, I can't say that guy's name, Javid Basharat, and Pedro Martinez. So he's on a roll, and he's never lost by sub. Has a decent record on the 5-fight win streak, but he's fighting a legend, so that's what's tough. And I think if Aldo can get those late kicks going like he used to, he can be dangerous and wear down Zahabi, keep him from getting to the ground, and then he can have his way with Zahabi. But Ayman is looking to extend that 5-fight win streak and stay on the roll that he's on and keep, climbing up that ladder. And to get a big name under his belt like Jose Aldo would be huge for him at this time of his career. So we'll see how this one pans out. I feel like it's going to be a good one. And that leads us into the co-main event with the ladies for the championship. We got Valentina Shevchenko, former champion, a couple times actually, but she is coming up against Manon Fiorot, heavy-handed striker. She's, look at that, 6-0 by KO TKO. She has not won or lost by submission, and 5-1 by decision. She's undefeated in the UFC, 12-1 overall. She's on a 7-fight win streak because she's not lost in the UFC yet, and has some big names as opponents. And then you got Shevchenko, former champ, and then became champ again. So multiple time champion for Shevchenko. Let's see. What am I looking for here? Anyway, yeah, so she's coming off that win over Grasso. When before that she had 2 losses to Grasso. Finally got the belt back, and besides losing to Grasso, she was on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-fight win streak, where she had last lost to Amanda Nunes. But I mean, she's fought everybody: Nunes, Holly Holm, Juliana Pena, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Jessica Ai, Liz Carmouche, Caitlin Sermara, Jessica Andrade, Lauren Murphy, Talia Santos. Like, she's fought fucking everybody. and being a champ so many times too, Shevchenko's definitely a killer. Like, we thought she was pretty much a world beater and unable to be beat for a long time with that 9-fight win streak. And then Grasso finally catches up to her, gets the rear naked choke on her, and there was a nasty one too. Grasso left her with that crazy white mark across her face with how much she squeezed on that choke, and got the win. and then she came back and gets a split decision win to defend the belt, and then in the trilogy loses the belt to Shevchenko. And that was in September of last year at that Noche UFC fight. So now Shevchenko's fighting Manon Fiorot, who's undefeated. But, you know, Shevchenko's got everything. She can strike. She's fast on her, and she's got good footwork, and she can, you know, she can submit. So she's good on the ground as well. So this is gonna be tough for Fiorot, because Fiorot, we've seen her not look so good here and there, but for the most part, I mean, she does work on the feet. Like I said, she's got heavy hands, and she has not lost in the UFC yet, and she's fought the likes of Erin Blanchfield, Rose Namajunas, Caitlin Samara, Jennifer Maia, Mayra Bueno Silva, Tabitha Ricci. So she's got some pretty good names in there that she has fought and beat, including former champions in Rose Namajunas, and Mayra Bueno Silva was an interim champ at one time, I think. Maybe not. I think she might have fought for it, but not really won it. I don't remember. Maybe she just fought for it. But anyway, yeah, so I mean, Fiorot's definitely has her work cut out for her. She's good on the feet, but I don't know if Shevchenko's at the top of her game with her striking. We've seen her, you know, be vicious in the striking as well. And she can do it on the ground. So Fiorot's got her work cut out for her. And I feel like it has potential to be a great fight, or they're gonna just kind of cancel each other out, and it might be a little bit boring. And it's a 5-round fight because it's a title fight. So let's hope for a finish, because both these women can strike and can strike well. So that could make it really exciting. Let's hope that that's the way this goes. Let's get to this main event and finish this off. Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. Belal, not very liked by too many people. I don't mind him. It's just some of his shit talk is weird. And I can understand why people dislike him. But he went on a long win streak, and it took him a long time to even get a title fight, but he finally did, and beat Leon Edwards to win the title. So, you know, he's the champ right now. He's earned it. And he looked good against, you know, opponents that people thought he wouldn't even have a chance of beating. So he's 24-3 overall, 15-3 in the UFC, 5-1 by KO TKO, 0-1 by submission, and 10-2 by decision. He's basically on a 10-fight win streak. Yeah, because like I said, he had to fight 9 times before he even got the title fight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, 10-fight win streak. With that last fight being against Leon Edwards, where he won the title. So this is his first title defense against Jack Della Maddalena. It was supposed to be Shavkat Rakhmonov, but he was not able to fight due to injuries. So they replaced him with Jack Della. And Jack Della Maddalena is undefeated in the UFC, 7-0. So similar to that co-main event, you know, we got 2 7-0 fighters coming up against, you know, the champion trying to take the belt. Jack Della is 17-2 overall, 12-1 by KO TKO, 2-1 by sub, and 3-0 by decision. Again, on a 7-fight win streak, because he is undefeated with 7 wins in the UFC. Let's take a look at Belal. So Belal has, a lot of people call him boring because of his fight style, you know, but he, I mean, as you can see, he gets his striking going, and he can land and do damage like he did against Leon. But, you know, he's got good grappling and wrestling, and that's why they call him boring, because he sometimes winds up just kind of putting pressure on people on the ground or against the cage. But, you know, he was pretty vicious against Leon, dropping him on his head, landing strikes, and just stifling Leon Edwards and not allowing him to, you know, rally and get a big comeback win like he did against Usman. He basically did what Usman did to him, except he actually finished him. So with that being said, Man, I am uncomfortable today. I can't find a comfortable way to sit. My shoulder's killing me. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, let's hope that Bilal comes out, you know, ready to fight and not ready to just, you know, kind of play it safe. I know it's his first title defense, so you never know how a guy's going to come out after winning that title, if he's going to play it safe or if he's really going to just put it out there and get a good fight in. But, you know, he put work in on Sean Brady, who's a tough-ass opponent and tough to fight. And then against Gilbert Burns, too, who's no joke. So, I mean, he's fought people like Vicente Luque, Damian Maia, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, but a lot of decision wins. So that's why people, you know, tend to dislike him and be, you know, kind of down on his skills. So, but he's fighting Jack Della, undefeated. You know, doesn't look good in all of his fights, but you know, he's undefeated and he's fought some pretty decent opponents. He's also fought and beat Gilbert Burns, and he finished him. He got a split decision win against Kevin Holland and Basil Hafez. So that's weird because you get a big win against Gilbert Burns, but you go to split. Well, Kevin Holland's a tough opponent because he's just awkward and his style is weird. And he's tough when he wants to be. If he's on an on day. And as you can see, he fought through some big punches and kicks from Jack Della to go to a split decision with him there. But the fight against Basil Hafez was a fight of the night for him there. So that was a hard fought split decision win for him. He finished Randy Brown, Danny Roberts, Ramazan Emeev. Those were all performance of the night bonuses for him there. All first round finishes, as well as a first round finish over Pete Rodriguez. So that was a little streak there that it had everyone hyped. Then he goes to a couple decisions and then gets the win over Gilbert Burns, which really put him over the top. And that was in March of last year. Hasn't fought for over a year now, but making his way back and fighting for the belt. Even though, you know, it's him stepping in, but he is getting a title fight regardless against Bilal Muhammad. So we'll see if Bilal can defend his title successfully for the first time, or we'll see if the undefeated Jack Della Maddalena is able to take that belt away and win the championship. So this should be interesting. Again, not the most exciting fights in the world, but they all have potential. So I'm just ready for another pay-per-view. Get the watch party going since I'm actually going to be in town and can do it. So let's see what the Fight Wheel has to say for picks this week for UFC 315. Looking at last week's, let me get this up real quick because I want to see. So we had Smotherman lost, Antonibio lost, Jones won, RDR won, Corey Sandhagen won, and Montel Jackson won. So we went 4-2. Not bad for the Fight Wheel. Again, that seems to be the best one so far, or the best record so far for the Fight Wheel is 4-2. Haven't picked all fights successfully yet. You know, we're just kind of doing this by chance. I'm just erasing because I use this little whiteboard to write down. But yeah, let's see what the Fight Wheel has for us this week, because I don't make picks anymore because I suck at them. So instead, I decided to do this Fight Wheel, and I feel like it's a fun little way to, you know, play it by chance and see what we get for predictions. And again, the best the Fight Wheel's done is 4-2, and that's been a couple times. Other times have been losing records. We're starting off with the co-main event, and it looks like the Fight Wheel thinks Manon Fiorot is gonna beat Valentina Shevchenko to take that title from her and continue on her undefeated record. So that's interesting. I guess we'll have to wait and see if that one's correct. I mean, it is possible, but if Shevchenko comes out like the Shevchenko of old, I don't think Manon Fiorot has a chance. But we'll see. Let's see what the Fight Wheel has next. Looks like the main event, Bilal Muhammad to defend his title and hand Jack Della Maddalena his first loss in the UFC. the Fight Wheel believes Bilal Muhammad will win in that main event and retain the title. Let's see what it has next. For UFC 315, Fight Wheel predictions. First fight of the night, Kyle Prepolek keeping his undefeated record against Benoit Saint Denis in his return. Oh, I don't think he's undefeated. What am I talking about? In his return to the UFC, though, the Fight Wheel predicts he's going to beat Benoit Saint Denis, which would hand BSD his third loss in a row. So that is potential for bad stuff. So let's hope BSD gets a win there. Next up, Jose Aldo to beat Ayman Zahabi, the legend, to get a win against the streaking up-and-comer. That's not too far-fetched, being that Aldo, like I said, is a legend, and Ayman is kind of a less experienced fighter, but he's on a streak right now. So, all right, let's see what the last fight of the night, the women's fight with Grasso versus Natalia Silva, and it looks like the Fight Wheel predicts that Natalia Silva will get that win, handing Grasso her second loss in a row, and that's the other undefeated fighter, Natalia Silva. And it looks like undefeated fighters will keep that undefeated record on this card, according to the Fight Wheel. So that's it. The Fight Wheel predicts Manon Fiorot to be the Inoue, Bilal Muhammad to be and still. Oops, I put the wrong. Wait, did it say Benoit Saint Denis was gonna win? No, he's gonna lose. I think I was talking about it. So Prepolek to beat BSD, and then Jose Aldo to beat, man, I'm forgetting everybody here. Ayman Zahabi, and then Natalia Silva to beat Alexa Grasso. So there's your fight picks from the Fight Wheel. And that about does it for this episode of the GRP. So don't forget about the Watch Party podcast happening Saturday during the main card. As soon as the main card goes live at 7 p.m. Arizona time, we will be live here on this channel. I will have in-studio guests. We'll be having, some drinks, talking fights, reacting live to all of the fights happening on the main card of UFC 315. So don't miss it. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. And you don't forget, don't worry about listening to that commentary on the, on the stream for the fights. Just come here and listen to us talk shit, have fun, and have some drinks and react live to all the fights. So don't miss that on Saturday, 7 p.m. during the main card of UFC 315 happening this Saturday. That's it for me. I'm out of here. Come back next Thursday for a recap of UFC 315 and a preview of the next weekend's fight night with Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales, which was supposed to be on 315 and got switched over to the next UFC fight night. But we got Paul Craig on there, Sadiq Youssef. A couple other fights. Not too bad. But yeah, come back next Thursday. Don't forget to like and subscribe, like I said. Leave a comment because I didn't go live, so I didn't have a chat. So if you leave a comment, you can tell me what you think, if you agree or disagree with anything I said, or just have a comment on any of the fights we were talking about or any of the news or anything like that. Be nice. Don't be a dick. But that's it for me. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the fights. Take it easy. I'm out. Peace.